There's a world that never existed. A timeline erased by blood and ash. Imagine waking up tomorrow in a reality where 85 million people never died. Where the atomic bomb was never born. Where the borders you know simply don't exist. What if I told you that the world you live in, every nation, every technology, every freedom you take for granted, was forged in the fires of humanity's darkest hour? World War II didn't just end in 1945. It created 1945 and everything after. But tonight, we're stepping through the looking glass into the world we were never meant to see. The world where it never happened. And what you're about to discover will make you question if we're reliving in the better timeline or the nightmare. September 1st, 1939. Germany invades Poland. The world holds its breath and then exhales. In our timeline, Britain and France declare war within 48 hours. But in this alternate world, they hesitate. They negotiate. They remember the 20 million dead from the First World War and choose appeasement over annihilation. Hitler absorbs Poland quietly. The world watches and does nothing. You think that means peace? Wait until you see what grows in the silence. By 1941, without a single world war, the Nazi Empire stretches from Paris to Moscow, not through blitzkrieg, through bureaucracy, through fear, through 1,000 small surrenders that no one remembers making. The Holocaust, it doesn't happen in concentration camps. It happens in shadows, in paperwork, in disappearances that no global war ever exposes. There are no liberators, because there is no war to liberate anyone from. Meanwhile, 7,000 miles east, another monster grows unchecked. Imperial Japan, without Pearl Harbor, without American intervention, continues its reign of terror across Asia. China bleeds. Korea suffers. Southeast Asia becomes a permanent colony. The rape of Nanking, just the beginning of atrocities that continue for decades, because no one has the military force or the moral awakening to stop them. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. Without World War II, the global empires never collapse. Britain keeps India in chains. France holds Vietnam. Belgium's brutal grip on Congo never loosens. The age of colonial independence, it never comes. By 1960, in our reality, over 50 nations gained freedom. In this timeline, maybe 5. The empire builders learned from World War I that they could survive anything, as long as they never fought each other again. You're watching this on a device that shouldn't exist. World War II was the greatest accelerator of technology in human history. Radar, jet engines, nuclear energy, antibiotics, mass production, synthetic materials, computer science. Alan Turing breaks the Enigma code and invents the blueprint for modern computing. Without the war, he's an unknown mathematician who dies in obscurity. No code to break, no computer revolution, which means the device in your pocket doesn't exist until the 2050s. If ever, the Manhattan Project never happens. Nuclear power plants, not invented. The space race, there's no race. Without Nazi rocket scientists defecting to America and Russia, we're still earthbound in 22.5. The internet, it was born from ARPANET, a military project designed to survive nuclear war. No war, no threat, no internet. Everything you think of as modern GPS, microwaves, duct tape, superglue, synthetic rubber, all of it, accelerated or invented because of wartime necessity. December 7th, 1941, never happens. Pearl Harbor remains quiet. America stays isolationist. The factories that built 300,000 aircraft and saved democracy, they stay dormant. The economic boom that created the American middle class never occurs. The Great Depression doesn't end in 1941. It drags on and on. Without wartime production, without the GI Bill, without the post-war economic miracle, America remains a regional power, struggling with 15% unemployment in 1955. But the real horror, The civil rights movement that changed America. It takes 50 years longer. World War II exposed American hypocrisy. Black soldiers fought Nazis abroad and returned demanding equality at home. Japanese Americans proved their loyalty despite internment. Women worked factories and refused to return to just housework. Without that catalyst, segregation continues into the 1990s. Women's liberation stalls. The social revolutions that defined the 1960s. They happen in the 2010s, if at all. But here's the terrifying part. Just because World War II doesn't happen, doesn't mean World War III doesn't happen. In our timeline, the atomic bomb was so horrifying that it prevented another global war. Mutually assured destruction kept the peace for 80 years. But in this alternate world, the first atomic weapon is undropped on Hiroshima in 1945. It's dropped on Moscow in 1962, during a border skirmish that spirals out of control. And no one knows how devastating it is until cities start disappearing. Without the cautionary tale of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, without the immediate horror that ended World War II, the nuclear age begins, not with restraint, but with recklessness. By 1965, 17 cities are gone, 200 million dead. And the world finally learns the lesson, but at 10 times the cost. So which world is worse? The one we have, or the one we avoided? 85 million people died in World War II. The Holocaust, Hiroshima, Leningrad, Dresden, the gulags, the firebombings, the entire generation that never grew old. But their sacrifice, their suffering, their deaths, they created the United Nations, the Geneva Conventions, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the European Union, the modern global order that, for all its flaws, has prevented another world war for 80 years. In the alternate timeline, those 85 million don't die in the 1940s, but 200 million die in the 1960s. Colonial oppression continues for a century. Technology stagnates. Human rights remain a fantasy for most of the world. We live in a world built on a mountain of corpses. But maybe, just maybe, their deaths bought us something precious. Here's the cruel truth about history. Sometimes the worst moments create the best outcomes. And sometimes peace is more dangerous than war. World War II survivors called themselves the greatest generation, not because they wanted war, but because they understood what they'd prevented. A world where fascism won, where empires never ended, where technology stayed frozen, where human rights never became universal. Every name on these walls, every grave in Arlington, every memorial in Europe, they're not just victims. They're the price we paid for the world you were born into. The children playing today don't know they're living in the aftermath of humanity's darkest hour. They don't know their freedom was purchased with blood. And maybe that's exactly as it should be. So what if World War II never happened? Then we'd be living in a darker world, where tyranny won by never being challenged, where technology advanced at a crawl, where human rights remained a dream, where the worst war in history wasn't the Second World War, but the third. The world we have is broken, imperfect, scarred, but it's a world where fascism was defeated, where colonies became nations, where technology exploded, where never again became more than words. We live in the world we were never meant to see, because 85 million people ensured we'd never have to see the alternative. And that makes all the difference. History isn't just what happened, it's what didn't happen. And sometimes the world we avoided is the greatest gift we never knew we received. If this made you see the world differently, share it with someone who needs to understand. Because the greatest threat to our future is forgetting how we got here. This is the world we were never meant to see. Guard it carefully.